Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. As we discuss this week's, is it sultry enough for you? I try to do sultry.
That was pretty
time.
sultry. I almost choked to death.
It's like
I almost choked to death on my drink there. Thanks, Chuck.
it's very
Why did I
smoky.
ever do the sexy September voice when we?
I don't know why.
Chuck?
I don't know why.
That still though killed me, Jeff. Your sexy September voice. Oh my god. Hey baby.
Speaking of sexy, we're talking about a movie with Marissa Tomei.
Oh boy, we were talking about her before you came sit down on the Zoom call here.
Oh
Okay.
man, here I thought we were gonna redo the start of this, but I guess we're going.
No, we're going. No,
I guess
no,
we're just
this is
going.
sexy. This is sexy.
This is
Good.
sexy. It's a comedy episode for a comedy film.
I mean, it's already a screwball comedy. This whole episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, I'm Jeff Arbuckle. That's Chuck
Hey, I'm
Moore, and that's
Jason.
Jason Oliver.
I was gonna tell you guys.
Okay, then do
Yeah.
it. Go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna do it anymore.
Well,
Um,
that's Chuck, by the way.
I'm Chuck. And I'm here to talk about
Woof.
the comedy film My Cousin Vinny, which was one of those movies that if it popped on the TV, we watched it. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's one of my dad's favorite films ever. And it's just a good, nice watch, right? Like
It is. I was going to mention the fact that it's a straight comedy, so it's like one of those kind of. It's just a straight comedy,
right.
but it's an R-rated comedy. So
Yeah.
that was a thing back in the late '80s and up through probably to the mid '90s. Most comedies were R-rated, and and it was strictly for
Language.
cussing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's like.
language.
And I miss those days.
Yeah.
Just to have an adult comedy.
Yeah, I mean, you'd know if you saw Eddie Murphy's name or those people, it was going to be one of those straight R-rated comedies. And this one's really funny. Like
Oh God, yeah.
I've seen this more times than I could count, and I still laugh out loud. And most movies don't do that. Like if I've seen them enough, I still find it humorous, but it doesn't get like a guffaw out of me. I think part of it today, this is the first time either of my kids saw it too. So their reactions kind of fed into my reaction, but it's still, happy to report, works with the younger audience. Like they
It should,
both,
yeah.
they both quite liked it. They were annoyed by the things you should be annoyed by, because there's plenty of things to be annoyed by with characters in this movie, and
Sure.
they hit on all those. Yeah. But yeah, what else do we have to say before we start talking about this movie? It's
I mean,
Joe
it's
Pesci.
it's
Go
an
ahead.
Academy Award winner.
It is Academy Award winner, and what did it win?
Best supporting
Oh,
actress.
Best supporting. Okay, yeah, I knew that one.
She
I
was
thought
the,
maybe.
she was the lone American in a category full of hefty British roles, and she won. And I don't think anybody saw it coming.
Well, I have a theory. I mean, you're right. Probably no one saw it coming.
but she deserves it.
She does, and you know why? In my opinion, she deserves it. It's because she makes what's generally a nails on chalkboard character really, really fun to watch.
She's lovable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very,
she's
very
like the
lovable.
anti-Fran Drescher.
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and how she plays off of Pesci is really good. They're constantly taking the piss out of each other, but but they love each other.
Yeah.
But they're constantly they're keeping each other grounded until she needs to be propped up.
Right.
And she does it herself. It's like she's the one with the knowledge. He just puts her in the situation.
Right.
Right. But no, they're keeping each other grounded. They're a fun couple to watch. They're a hilarious couple a few times to watch when they're
Yeah.
bickering at each other. But she's also it's another role, much like with the Arquette role a few weeks ago, that could have been played bimbo-y.
yeah. Yeah.
but it is not at all.
It's
From
not.
the moment you see her, you get about 3 lines in of hers and you realize, oh, she's not an idiot.
Right. I mean, she's seems smarter than her lawyer fiance.
Well,
Right.
what I love about that too is he sets her up for that as well. When the one guy comes, the bumpkin guy comes, is like, "Oh, you got mud in your tires."
Yeah.
He's like, "I've never heard of mud in my tires," and he asks her, "It's like, you ever
Yeah.
heard of that mud in my tires?" She's like, "No, that's not a thing." She says it's not a thing, and she knows everything there is to know about cars.
Right.
Right. So it's like immediately she's an authority on something, and she is respected.
Right.
Yeah.
Although that's immediately followed up with the guy walking away, and then he's like, "You stick out like a sore thumb."
Yeah.
And he's like, "At least I wore the cowboy boots."
Cowboy boots.
Well, yeah, I mean, their relationship with each other is much different than how they treat each other to the outside world, right?
Right.
Like, yes.
Right. They're
And
gonna
that's a
defend
normal
each other.
dynamic,
They're going
right?
to defend
Like,
each other to tooth and nail. Yeah, but they're
Oh yeah, because what's the running joke throughout the movie? It's him going to get the money that she was cheated out
The
of.
fucking guy is so
and the
comical.
The way it fucking ends kills me to this day. It's the broadest, most physical joke in the whole movie, and it. Oh my god, it kills me.
Punch body slam, man. It's great. So let's set this up a little. We don't need to go like scene by scene on this movie, but we have Ralph Macchio and some other dude driving to college, and they stop at a gas station.
Well, it's interesting. Real quick, let's talk about the path that they take because they're from New York, and they got accepted to UCLA. So they decided, because it's like January or whatever, that it would be a nicer drive to go all the way to the bottom of the country and then straight. So, like, they're even
You have to make that trip south, anyways.
Well, sure, but I mean, like, they're kind of going out of their way immediately instead of like gradually going south. They like go straight south and then over.
it's definitely the long way, but they do mention that it's more scenic.
Right. It would be warmer for them to drive there.
I mean, you have to be able to get the New Yorker to Alabama, the northerner to a podunk town, right? It's the whole
Sure.
crux of the story. You have to kind of do that, right?
Sure. But it is important that they are going that way because
I mean, honestly, though, the way they play it, it could have been any like podunk Midwest town.
Yeah,
really.
I guess.
But it's important because they have to drive their convertible. That's kind of a key element of all of this.
Also, grits. Grits are important, and grits are in the South.
You know what? I do want to. Yeah, you needed the grits. I do want to talk about that because that's something I will always appreciate about this movie or any movie that does this is that there are no wasted scenes, right?
No.
Like when they're having the conversation about the grits, you're like, what is the point of this, right? Like if you're just watching it, you're probably like, it's a funny scene, but it comes back later.
Yep.
Them talking about the car comes back later. Like almost everything they encounter becomes a part of the later scenes, right?
Right. Well, and also they do a really good job of not making either Joe Pesci or Marissa Tomei belittle the Southerners around them.
Yeah.
It would have been a very, very easy for him to not like the grits. But they don't do that.
No, they're
He
more.
ends up saying, I like grits. I love grits. And he knows all the different ways that you make grits.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing he didn't order lunch. And he ordered
Oh God,
breakfast.
that's like that. Oh my God. Okay, we'll get to it.
Good choice.
We went to lunch yesterday morning, and it was after I watched this movie, and I told Susan when we were getting ready to go, I was like, I think I'm gonna order the breakfast.
That's funny. Good choice.
Yes.
So Machio and his friend, which their dynamic is kind of hilarious too. Like the one guy is, would you call him neurotic? I don't
He's
know.
high-strung.
High-strung. There you go.
Yes.
He's very high-strung. He worries about literally everything, and he likes to save pennies and blah 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 blah. They go to this gas station, buy $22 worth of stuff, and leave basically, right? And they're driving down the road, and a cop pulls them up. Well, important to note that Ralph Macchio accidentally put a can of tuna because he couldn't hold stuff into his pocket,
And
and
forgot
he
about
forgot.
it.
He
Yeah.
forgot to pay for it. So the hilarity of the next, 10 minutes, which is really well done. They get pulled over and brought in, not realizing that the clerk at the store was murdered.
Right. Well,
So
yeah,
they're-
because the cop is like got his like shotgun and everything trained on, and like Ralph Macchio is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So they kind of think they're being put a joke pulled on them, or
Yeah, because they're
whatever.
New Yorkers. Yeah.
Yeah. So all this for a can of tuna? It's really funny. But yeah, I'm trying to think of any other particulars. Jeff, you probably know the particulars. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's like so they get brought in, and they're just going to admit, yeah, I forgot to pay for the
That's what I was going to say. They
Right.
confess. Yeah.
right. They confess, and so like this is if there's one thing that they do in this, thankfully they don't keep going with it. This is one of those things where it's like all he has to say is the fact that he forgot to pay for the tuna.
But it leads up to something, right?
Right,
It's farcical. And
Right.
Susan, the whole time she's watching this, she's like, "This is so unrealistic." I kept turning and looking at her and saying, "Susan, it's a comedy. We're not watching a hard-hitting drama here."
Right.
So, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, just say what happened, but you're right. It's a farce. It is meant to
it's a
be
farce.
set up so that when he is saying,
It's
yeah,
a classic
I did it.
bit. It's the misunderstanding, and the guy thinks one thing, they think another, and they have.
But it
happens again later in the cell in the scene that you loved, Jeff.
Oh,
oh my
that
God,
fucking
it's
killed
so
me.
fucking funny.
It fucking
But-
killed me.
But yeah, I mean, it's important too. Like this scene where you just say you bought the can of tuna. The fact that he recites back to the cop,
Yes.
"I shot the cop.
Or I shot the
I
clerk.
shot.
I shot the clerk.
I shot the clerk." It's important.
Right.
It plays in the court, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Right.
So,
Because
Yes.
exactly, it's
It's a confession at that point.
it's right. The way
And he's just
typed,
just looking back.
There's no
and,
context at all.
I shot
Right.
the clerk.
Wait, I shot the clerk? Oh, you did. I shot the clerk? And then right then they end the scene perfectly though, because before he can really put together what's happening, the sheriff gets called away.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, so good. It's like they didn't carry this on forever.
You didn't have to have the belabored scene of him
Right.
trying to explain it.
Exactly.
And then when he has to explain it to his buddy while they're sitting on the bench is also funny.
Yeah.
Accessory to shoplifting.
Yeah. So good.
Because that guy is having a similar conversation because he thinks, well, you're just yanking my chain. And they're like, oh, accessory. It's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I helped him steal a can of tuna. But yeah, so they get their one call, right? They get booked. They get their one call, and Macchio calls his mom, and it's like that classic. I heard this conversation in the Northeast so many times. Like, Ma, come on, Ma,
Yeah.
Ma, come on. Ma, I know, really, we didn't do it. It's not that bad, Ma. But she tells him that she has a cousin, or he has a cousin who's a lawyer, and that's his cousin Vinny. And that's when
Smash
Vinny,
cut to Vinny coming into town
yes.
with
Yes.
his cowboy boots.
Yeah. He's like, at least I look the pot. I have cowboy boots.
Oh, yeah. World traveler.
Yeah. But
So-
they're
yeah.
like kind of fish out of water story, right?
Yeah.
Too.
So we move on to the next farcical thing, which is the fish out of water.
Right.
And then, so it's like they're the weird. She's looking for good Chinese food, which is also kind of hilarious that because it's so common now how older movies treat Chinese food. Like
It should have been
some sort of-
pizza. Should have been fucking pizza. But yeah,
Well, but I mean, pizza's passe to them by now.
Right.
It's like,
I guess. But if
it's
a
like-
northerner was going to shit on something in the South, it would be pizza. Like I do it all the time here
That's
because
true.
I can't find good pizza. Go ahead. Sorry, Jeff.
But no, so they so like they're trying to figure out, it's like they get a hotel room, and also uh Mona Lisa Vito is who Marissa Tomei plays. So Lisa's always taking pictures of everything, and and it's like all like embarrassing moments, like that she's taking pictures of Joe Pesci doing.
Oh yeah, you get high def dick on Pesci in this too in that photo. It's like you wouldn't have seen that in the 80s. It's just showing through the shower curtain in this one. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, so it's like they got to find a place to stay. Yeah, but he's got to go meet with Judge Chamberlain Holler. Another great performance in this.
Oh,
Fred Gwynne's last movie.
Oh wow,
what a treasure.
He is. He's phenomenal in this. Like there's nobody that's not good in this, but he's
oh yeah,
awesome.
He's and he
like if you don't know this is a comedy, look at their Chamberlain Holler, really?
Right. Yeah.
Vincent LaGuardia Gambino. It's named after a fucking airport. Sorry.
Well, but he comes into his office and he sees Vinny sitting there with his feet up on his desk, and like Vinny's like really, he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's a loudmouth, and he's kind of, well, I mean,
he's a New Yorker, man. He's a New Yorker.
Sure. I was gonna try to be nice.
No, if you're stereotyping New Yorkers, that's from the.
I mean, I was gonna say the same thing that Marissa Tomei called him, a dickhead. Yeah, he's a dickhead.
Yeah, like
and he's.
All the characters in this movie are stereotypes one way or another. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because she's also just as loud as he is.
Right.
But so it's like the judge doesn't like him, but Vinny is never really antagonistic towards Judge Holler. He smarts off a little bit.
I mean, he antagonizes him once he's been antagonized enough times.
Exactly. Yes. He's not. He needs to be provoked, basically.
Right. And he's not willfully like disobeying orders or following procedures. He just doesn't know them. Right.
Which I will admit, I really identify with Vinny. If somebody at work handed me like 4-paragraph email to read before a meeting,
I expect you to know this.
I'd be like, oh, we're gonna do this as we go along. I'm not doing this beforehand. Which is another thing that Lisa picks up on. She reads the book and tells him what he needs to know.
Yeah.
Which changes his performance immediately.
Something too that I didn't realize that I read somewhere, it might have been on the Wikipedia page, that there was a lawyer who kind of consulted in a way on this. He didn't consult, but he came in after the fact and kind of like gave it a score for accuracy, and he said it's pretty accurate.
Oh yeah, like it's been louder ever since. Yeah.
He said, there's obviously some goofy stuff here and there,
sure.
but he also said that most law schools don't teach courtroom proceedings.
Yeah,
you learn courtroom proceedings through practice, which is fascinating to me. So judges will give a lot of leeway if you haven't tried a case before, right? Because it's a teaching experience. That's interesting to me.
Yeah,
it is interesting, and it actually is used against Vinny in this because he lies.
Right.
And says,
he should know this stuff. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, he took him 3 times to pass the bar 6 years after he graduated.
Six times. It took him 6 times.
6 times.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Which is it's not uncommon for people not to pass the bar the first time.
Right. No, it's not.
It's incredibly difficult.
Well, yeah, because Mark.
I love this.
Ralph's brother. Well, surely he got it the second time. No big deal. He's like, nope. Then Ralph Macchio's like, 3rd time's the charm. Like, nope. For me, it was 6 times the charm.
Stan Rothenstein is the other. Well, Rothenstein. Well, they say it wrong at one point, and I can't remember which.
He called me Stein.
Funny. Yeah, so I mean, you have this New York lawyer coming to defend these innocent men, but it's made abundantly clear that in the South there are no shortcuts with this shit. Like, you're gonna go to trial, right? That's said later, but also you're gonna follow the rules, and you're probably not gonna win the case, right? Like, these kids are gonna get convicted because we think they did it, and 3 people said they did.
Well, and not only are they going to be convicted, they're going to be electrocuted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a dark moment in this movie.
There really is. Yeah.
Where it's like somebody who you see all these people like, like outside, like with signs.
I think it's Norton is his name, I think.
Right. And so, yeah. And like they basically say, it's like, oh, they're constantly outside because throughout the course of the movie, they are being, Joe Pesci pisses off the judge for something and he ends up in jail every day. And
Right.
so like, you're constantly seeing the protesters outside asking for amnesty. And that's when you have, like the about halfway point of this movie where they're really trying to figure out, like, can they stick with him? And like the fucking lights start to like fizz out because like that
There
guy's
goes
getting,
the consummate Norton.
right. Right. So it's like,
Well, let's talk about the scene where they meet Vinny, because I know you love that scene, right, Jeff?
oh my God, yes.
They're talking about how, like, what happens in prison, right? You become someone's bitch. And and Vinny shows up. We know who Vinny is, but Rothenstein does not know who he is. He thinks he's there to, what does he think he's there for, Jeff? Good.
A little bit of the old in out.
Yeah. He's like, let's get this done. Let's get in and out. And then he's like, it's your ass, not mine. Like, there's so many good one-liners there.
What do you think? I just want you to jerk me off here?
Yeah. I'm not jerking anyone off. He's like, it doesn't matter what's going to happen. You're still going to get fucked.
Yeah. It's
Right.
either me or them. You're getting fucked one way or the other.
Yeah. So fucking good. That guy, like, Rothenstein is like, every time Ralph Macchio tells him to shut up, in my head I'm thinking, will you just shut up? Like, right before Macchio says it to him. Oh, that high strungness.
That guy, I just looked him up, Mitchell Whitfield. He was Donatello, the voice of Donatello in the 2007 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
The movie, really? Okay.
He was also in Dylan Dog. So this is our second.
Mitchell Whitfield movie?
Yeah, Mitchell Whitfield movie. I don't know who he was in that. I don't remember that movie very well.
He's perfect as this type of
yeah, as this kind of high strung. Yeah. Because he's kind of the stereotypical Jewish kid. He's like kind of sheltered. He's he's high strung.
It's like Stephen Wright walking around. Or Richard Lewis.
I was like, Stephen Wright.
Yeah,
Richard Lewis. Sorry.
Is he stoned? Richard Lewis. Yeah, he's kind of the Richard Lewis for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they find out all that about Vinny, and they're like, well, shit. And Macchio's like, well, he's family. I can't kick out a Gambini. Like, come on, you haven't seen a Gambini argue. I've seen your parents argue. They're amateurs, right? But Vinny also has a problem. Everywhere they stay, this entire movie, there are some kind of noises. A train, animal, or the pigs, then the owl, which is one of the funnier scenes in the movie.
Oh God! Yeah,
he walks out with a gun and just shoots everywhere. And then he walks in all dignified, like, I fucking did it.
I think he's wearing his boots too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got boots, his jacket, and no pants.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of pantless Pesci in this movie.
Pantless Pesci.
Pantless Pesci.
It sounds like an ingredient to some sort of pasta.
Yeah. Sounds like a mixed drink.
Pantless pesci.
Pantless. Give me a pantless pesci.
I'm like, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Pantless pesci.
That's why I got some prosecco in it. I don't know, where am I? I don't even know where I am.
We were talking about the bit with everywhere they stay.
Oh yeah,
There's
everywhere they
something that
stay, the
keeps them
noise.
up or wakes them up in the morning really early.
So he's not getting any sleep. So it's making his court appearance suffer, right? Like he's passing out everywhere. Obviously, this is making the judge angry because he's not respecting the court. And Fred Gwynn is like, what an authoritative dude. Like, if that guy told me to do something, I'd fucking do it. Vinny? No, you're not going to do it.
No.
You were serious about that?
with the dress, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god, yeah.
So then he gets sent to jail again for contempt of court. He's got to be bailed out every time for $200.
Yes.
At one point, he just tells Mona Lisa, he's like, nah, I'm going to stay in jail. Maybe I'll finally get some sleep.
And then there's like a fucking riot, and he's sleeping like a baby through it.
This is funny because Stephanie earlier in the movie, and she's seen this before. She's like, he's from New York. Shouldn't he like be able to sleep through this shit? Well, when he's in the prison, yep, those sounds are familiar.
Yep.
He sleeps right through them. Fucking hilarious. So yeah, basically the case against these guys, right? They have car tracks that match their car. 3 people have saw them leaving the scene, right? Saw those 2 fit their description leaving the scene. What else is building in the case against them? I think it's the eyewitnesses is the primary.
The eyewitnesses. They see the car and they positively identify them.
Yes,
those were the 2 utes.
The two what?
The 2 what? What is a ute? Oh, I'm sorry. The 2 youths.
And then he calls them defendants, and then he looks at the judge, like nods at him.
Yeah. They're like tete-a-tete. It's just great.
It really is. But yeah, so he sets out, right, to disprove. Well, we got to go through this whole thing. Tomei, what is her name in this movie? What do I forget? Mona Lisa Vito. They rarely say her name in this movie, I don't think. Lisa.
They just call her Lisa, yeah.
Yeah. Lisa is reading the law book that he was supposed to read.
Oh my God. Her delivery and explaining to him. Because he goes hunting with the prosecutor, and he's like, I'm going to schmooze him. I'm going to get his files. And then I watch enough Perry Mason to know, fucker, you should already get the files like immediately.
It's privileged information, right? And he comes back like fucking Rooster, right? Like he's all like, oh,
he's got like
schmoozed him.
Box,
yeah.
And she's like, you stole them?
But yeah, her delivery and like you realize he has to give you all this stuff, right? You just need to ask.
It's called disclosure, dickhead.
Yeah. She's so great in this.
And he just is like, oh, okay.
Had Tomei been in a lot? Was this like one of her earliest roles? I feel like it's the first time I remember her.
It was the first big role that she had, but she had been in, she was on A Different World for a little while, the Cosby spinoff.
Oh, yeah.
But she had been in stuff as early as the mid 80s.
Okay.
But yeah.
But I mean, this was her breakthrough. I mean, no doubt.
I mean, she was uncredited in The Toxic Avenger.
Well, I guess she was in Oscar.
Yeah,
that Jonathan Landis movie
with Sly. Yeah,
Sly Stallone.
Her
guy hanging off a clock.
There's another really subtle joke in this, where she has.
Oh wow, she was in Chaplin too. Sorry.
Yeah,
before this.
She has a ton of outfit changes, and you
Yeah.
never see her suitcase. Like her clothes are crazy, and she has something different every scene, whereas Joe Pesci doesn't. And yet, when they take off, when they're hightailing it out of town at the end, there's only one suitcase.
It's amazing. Oh yeah, her outfit in the scene we'll talk about later when they're on the porch.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
I saw it. I was
Yeah.
like, that's just insane. That is
Yeah.
insane.
How does she get into that?
She looks like a chess piece.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. So yeah,
funny thing is, somebody on Etsy is selling that outfit.
Oh, I'm not
they
surprised.
remade it.
Yeah.
Somebody actually got a pattern that looked like that.
Well, that's the famous "my biological clock is ticking" scene, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and the two Utes, like those two things are
That's trailer stuff.
Yeah.
and they're in the zeitgeist or whatever you call it. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, once she tells him that he can get the files, he has a right to them. He can also get the list of witnesses, thank you, and question them. So he goes and questions each of them. It's kind of a brief, like, what is that brown
montage.
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a montage of him asking.
And this is what he's good at, right? I mean, this kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, he's great at this sort of stuff.
Yeah. They keep asking the right questions, deducing logic. I mean, this is all in his wheelhouse. This is really when we find out is the heart of why he's a lawyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even tells the other lawyer, like, he got in an argument with somebody, and a lawyer, Judge Malloy, was like, or a Judge Malloy was like, you'd be a good litigator. And that's kind of that's kind of a cool scene between him and the other lawyer there before they go hunting, where he's explaining his background to him. And the other lawyer, while he gets a bit cocky at one point in this movie, is not a bad guy.
No, these
Like,
these are professionals just on the others. I mean, like this is probably one of those accuracy things that gets high praise, is that defense lawyers and prosecutors don't hate each other like we
Right.
think they do.
Right.
No, they talk and they share case info. Like, yeah, they're probably
And they
probably go out to the
negotiate
bar
for-
after.
It's the game
Yeah.
behind the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they negotiate for hours probably.
Yep.
So they get to know each other, and yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Vinny rounds up his information, and at some point during this time, Rothenstein loses faith in him and takes on the public defender instead, which is kind of weird. It's a good joke and it's funny, but how did he not realize he didn't have a stuttering problem prior to
Well,
the
no,
first
it's
time?
explained. It's explained.
It is, yeah.
He
He
has
says
public
he's nervous, right?
he has
public.
nervous public speaking issues.
Yeah.
He can
Yeah.
talk to people privately perfectly, but when he actually has to do his job, he can't do the public speaking thing.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
You might recognize Austin Pendleton from the 1986 classic Short Circuit.
Austin Pendleton.
Oh, yeah.
Been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, he has. He's been in tons of stuff.
I don't know. Short Circuit is kind of a classic.
It most certainly is.
Yeah, Short Circuit 2, on the other hand, that's something. I like it, but it's
Locos
something.
kick your butt.
Los Locos kick your balls into outer space. I mean, I still say KO Durf, like, all the time.
Okay.
Well,
All right. I didn't divert us into Short Circuit talk. I
real quick,
short-circuited
short-circuited
us.
this podcast.
Yes, you did.
well, one real quick. What I know him best is as Max in the Muppet movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Go
early.
Max.
It's early Austin Pendleton.
Yep, most certainly. Okay, Austin Pendleton.
Oh,
Good
he's
stuff.
in the 52577 coming up. Ooh, I want to see that.
But yeah, I agree, Chuck. The scene is a little. It's if there's any scene, any like joke in this movie that I think maybe punches a little below the belt, it's that one, right?
And it's a little too long.
Yeah,
However, it is funny when he's spitting on the jury.
Oh, I mean, no doubt. The performance is superb.
Yeah.
Well, and then also it's like, Vinny's falling asleep. He's, because he can't sleep. So
Right.
he's falling asleep in that first trial. The
It
opening,
does feel like an old like Preston Sturgis gag though, right?
Yeah,
The
it's-
stuttering,
yes.
the stuttering, haha,
ah,
Nailed it.
litigator.
today, Junior. No, like the whole opening statement when he's sleeping through the prosecutor, and then he gets up and is like, everything that guy says bullshit. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they have to get everything but thank you stricken from the.
Yes.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
Yeah. So Pesci is not good at the surrounding stuff, but he is a good arguer.
When he,
And-
sorry, when he says that,
please.
when he says that, that's the time he shows up in court in the like old
The magician's
the old
outfit.
magician's tuxedo because he fell in mud earlier, and then his suit that Mona Lisa bought for him got muddy too, and so he had nothing to wear. So he explains all this to the judge, and he's like, and that's why I'm wearing this ridiculous thing. It's for you.
It's really funny too. Like, it's a compound joke because Ralph Macchio was describing how he could deconstruct any magician's act,
Yeah.
right? As part of why he should be their lawyer. So him coming in as a magician is kind of an extension of that. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny. He looks hilarious. Like, he'd make a great penguin,
Oh yeah,
Pesci. Back in the day, he would have anyway.
yeah, because that's the other really broad joke in this too is when the owl wakes them up in the cabin where they're supposed to sleep like a baby,
Yep.
they decide to go out and sleep in the car in the middle of the woods, like in this clearing,
Yep.
and they do end up getting sleep, but not before a storm prevents them from falling asleep at first. And that's what creates the mud around the car. And that's another important thing. We saw one wheel spin and one not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he closes the door on the car to get him out of the mud, he slips and falls. And then he gets up and falls on the other side. So he's completely covered in mud. He's
Yep.
going to get the 2x4s to put under the tires from the trunk, which is surprising that a New Yorker would have that, all things
Right.
considered.
They're used as weapons in New York. but-
Fair enough.
Or for snow. I mean,
I
Yeah.
guess for snow. But
yeah, Jeff.
jeez. Obviously, I'm from balmy Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the thing is on top of the boards.
Yes.
Fucking flings the suit out.
It's
He's
like,
like, hey,
Lisa, what's in the pink bag?
why is that my suit? Why was my suit in the trunk? I wanted to get it clean for you. I thought it'd be a nice surprise.
She's so sweet.
Yeah, she really is. While also able to bust your balls pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, she's definitely like, she's got a spine. She's
Yeah.
just a good
Well, you
character.
see it in that one crazy ass outfit that she's wearing on the porch. You see her spine like easily.
Yeah, but this is a good callback to something Jason was saying a couple weeks ago on True Romance. Like, the Arquette character had no like depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lisa in this movie has a ton of depth.
Yeah.
Like, and you can understand her motivations. You can understand her. She stands up for herself. She's smart. Like, there's a lot to her. She's just a good character.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
Yes.
No, so so that's when he is. So she goes to get because the place that he bought the suit previously, that is now in the mud, was closed for the flu. And they
The whole
don't have
place has the flu.
the whole place has the flu, and there's no 1 hour cleaner. So she had to go to the hand-me-down store, and that's where she found this because it's like part magician, part like southern like plantation guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Or hotel bellman.
Right. It's a very dandy outfit.
Yeah.
And
I like too when he first shows up, Fred Gwynn. He's like, "Are you mocking me?"
He's
It's
so good.
good. It's so good.
and then and that's when he goes into the he explains the whole place had the flu. And then I got it for you.
We forgot the other broad joke, which is kind of important, is that Fred Gwynn or Holler keeps looking into his background,
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and he gives a name. Like he's like, there's a famous actor that has my name, so I had to use a stage name to
Yeah.
be a lawyer.
I registered with the bar under a different name. Yeah.
Frank Gallo or something like that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, he gives him the name of a bigwig attorney back east, and not realizing that he just like died last week or something.
And that's another thing too. Like he's very surface on everything. Where like he doesn't read the article, Marissa does. He doesn't read the book, she does. Like they show him reading the book, but he doesn't really retain anything. It feels like.
Well, it's because also in their weird foreplay moment where she's talking about the torquage that's needed for
that's fucking awesome.
Right, but like she even talks about having read front to back the faucets like manual.
Yeah.
And
I think she's joking there, but maybe not.
I don't know, but it was kind of hot.
Yeah. I mean, that's their foreplay, right? Like that's that's the foreplay.
Talk mechanic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she actually like picks up a People magazine, and like she's like, "Here's your warranty," and she like rips out a page, and he's like, "Well, I guess it's just fucking broke then." Or I guess the fucking thing is just broke then. Talking about the faucet. But anyway, so right. And so it's kind of funny because like you start to see like once he realizes what he can and can't do, like he realizes that he can get the information. He realizes that he can go talk to the like when he acts upon that stuff, he's actually a really good lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's a smart guy.
Yeah, he is. And he's not just an argumentative guy. He can do that. But when he's actually once he like actually starts cross-examining people, it's actually pretty good. Like he asks when he talks to the one guy who looked out his window across the way at the Sack of Suds was the name of the place.
Yeah.
And he could see through the window to the Sack and Suds, and that's how he identified that it was these two Utes. And he's like, he starts pulling out the pictures. Like, what's all this brown stuff? Oh, that's dirt. Oh, what's this rusted out piece of crap that's also over that's rust on the screen. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, also, what are these things here? There's like 7, or they're like, what are these things? It's like. And the guy's starting to like question his own answers because he's like, trees? He goes, yeah. It's like, no, them. Just blurt them out when you got them. Just yell them out. And he's like, well, what are all these thousands of things that are on the trees? And then he's like, oh, what? How many of those bushy things are in front? It's 5. Oh, don't forget these 2. So basically, he disproves that the guy could actually see anything.
Right.
And then the old black lady who's got these Coke bottle glasses. And
that's really funny when he takes the measuring tape.
Yeah.
Runs it out.
And then the judge.
But he's also like so respectful as he does it too.
Right.
Like he's not he's not trying to put a knife in her, but he's proving his point in a very dramatic way.
Right.
He's helping her almost,
Yeah.
like letting her know she needs more new glasses. And that is funny when like Fred Gwynn like joins it. Let the record say that he's holding up two fingers. Like, come on, Judge.
Yeah.
He kind of
Help
has
me
a
out
laughy
here.
smirk, like it's the moment, you know, it's kind of teetering towards Pesci with the judge a
Right.
little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because after that guy with all of the, with like the bad view of the sack of suds, the judge realizes, oh, he can do this.
Yeah,
He has
he's getting
he has a
impressed with
look.
him a
Yeah,
little
he
bit.
has a look on his face that's like, oh, he can do this.
Yeah, he's a little surprised.
And then, of course, also he argues, like, once he knows what the argument is about the getting the evidence and the witnesses, like okayed by him first, he actually cites what's exactly written in the book. So once that was given to him by Marissa Tomei, he recites it back to the judge as if he read and memorized it himself.
Yeah, and I love Fred Gwynn's reaction, or Holler's reaction there. He's like, that's a well put, whatever. He's like, but denied. Overruled.
Right, overruled. But yeah, so like the lady with the, he only goes 50 feet and she can't see that he's, holding up only two fingers.
Right.
So things are starting to turn his direction. That's when Jim Trotter is like, hey, he calls him up and it's like, oh, you should be worried because I got a guy tomorrow that, he's going to sink your defense, basically.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say he basically, Vinny tries to get the information sooner. Like, who's this going to be? Who am I going to be talking to? Because I'm allowed that information. You know that, right? And he's like, oh, I'll tell you first thing in the morning. And the guy ends up being a tire expert.
Works for the FBI.
Yeah, works for the FBI, and he's not a tire expert.
Well, he's a vehicle. What do they call that? It's a
Vehicular man spotter.
no, no, but he's like a vehicular. What's the?
I got some snorks out of Jason.
I can't think of the actual term.
It doesn't matter. He's an expert.
He's an
expert. He gets called in when there is something to do with a footprint or a tire print or something that he will study or take impressions of or whatever. Yeah, I can't think of the actual.
It doesn't matter.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, he looks at the forensic evidence and proves.
That's the word. Basically. He's a forensic scientist for those types of situations.
Yes.
Where there's.
Sorry, I had that word in my head. I didn't know that's what you were looking for.
That was exactly what I was looking for. Yeah.
So yeah, this is like a real bullet through the case because basically this guy says that the tire marks and the rubber that were left by the tires identically match the Skylark, metallic green Skylark that they're driving, which is like, it doesn't matter anymore that Vinny put all of the eyewitnesses in doubt. There is now physical evidence that proves that their car
peeled out, went over
it proves that a car with the same tires.
It proved it in this moment, right? Yes. Like it's a difficult thing for him to prove otherwise, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
There should still be reasonable doubt here. Well, I think they try to make it sound like these tires are so rare that it would be unlikely that two cars would have them.
Yeah, and the way that it's framed by the forensic guy is like it matches the rubber from that tire, almost like we have a fingerprint, right? Like it's not really what's happening, but that's the way it's framed.
Right. And he does fire back. It's like, well, what's the most popular tire sold? It's the exact tire. And he's like, so isn't it possible that two cars could have the same set of tires? He does get an affirmative out of that, but the problem is mint green
Right.
60s car.
Right, exactly.
That's the problem.
Which is not in dispute that the witnesses have seen. And
Right.
it's not in dispute that that's what the defendants drove, right? So that's what's given credence to both of these theories. That number one, they actually saw those exact two utes,
Right.
Right.
and then the fact that it's the same tire on the same color car.
Yep.
But
Yeah, and that's his argument the whole time. Couldn't it be possible that there are two identical cars that pulled into the lot within minutes of each other? Go ahead.
What I really like is the scene where Vinny sits down with his cousin Ralph Macchio, because he's thinking about going with the public defender too.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And he's like, look, I believe you didn't do this. So if you didn't do this, then what this person is saying isn't the truth. What this person is saying isn't the truth. And what this person is saying is not the truth. And I don't think there's a conspiracy, but the whole case is built on some type of mirage. And we just got to figure out.
It's a house of cards.
The house of cards, right.
Yeah.
So once you know, like, definitively that this thing can't be the case, it's easier to start poking holes, right?
Right. And that's when he says,
Because you got to get past your own prejudice.
Right. That's when Ralph Macchio tells his buddy that it's like, yeah, he poked through all of the magicians at this birthday party's stuff.
It was his worst nightmare.
It was his worst nightmare.
I do like that, how he does the trick with the card, and he's like, they're going to try to build bricks, and when you look at them sideways, you'll see that they're paper thin, and then he flips the card over and it's a different card. It's good stuff. So then he has a fight. Like, he's kind of deflated right after this expert comes in, and he's given 90 minutes, right? He told the judge, oh, you looked up Frank Gallo. It's actually Callo with a C.
Yeah.
And he goes to the diner and he's looking through the pictures. He's like, I'm missing something. And Tomei comes in with her pictures, and he takes out all his frustration unfairly on her, right?
Yeah.
Like, just like,
she is like destroyed at that table. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only time you see her completely and totally lost at this point.
And it's the only time when Pesci is kind of unlikable, right?
Yeah.
He's legitimately mean to her.
You understand where it's coming from, but he's unlikable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pressure of the moment is too big for him now.
Yeah.
Yes. And little did he know, she actually did take a picture that solved the case. But now he's lost her, right? He's lost her.
And she walked out. Yeah. She does return to the courtroom, though, or she does return to the courthouse. So luckily, he finds her on the phone, which we find out later also why she's on the phone, which is really smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he knows there's something that he knows also, because he asks for a few minutes to to get her, because he's going to call her to the stand, because he realizes now from the picture, I got it. I know what I'm missing.
Yes.
And then he asks the sheriff to look up something, which means he also knows the answer.
Right.
Which is really, really, it shows his smarts too, but he can't put himself on the stand.
Right.
So he's got to find the person who also knows that information. She's outside on the phone. So he drags her back in. She's like kicking and screaming the whole way.
But not even necessarily the person who would know that information, but the person who would know that information, but be a definitive expert on the subject.
Right. Even if Pesci could put himself on the stand, he wouldn't have been able to validate his expertise.
Not what she has to validate.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is actually pretty smart of him. He uses her to disprove one of his primary theory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is actually really smart.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredibly smart because
it's used again in Liar Liar.
Yeah.
Later on.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about that someday because you keep bringing it up.
Yeah, funny movie.
Funny movie. But
yeah,
anyway, so he basically, she's there to basically rebut the FBI guy, and the Trotter, the DA, is kind of a dick to her. It's like, oh, she's an expert, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And he's like he's asking her questions, and of course he asks her a trick question that
I don't even think he knows it's a trick
he
question.
probably doesn't,
Yeah.
but she convinces
I think he
both.
just made up a bunch of shit. Yeah.
Right. Sounded like made up shit to
sound
me.
good enough. Yeah.
Right. But she convinces the judge that she is worthy of, being the expert, which then also convinces Trotter.
Yeah, I mean, Trotter has to sign off on her.
Right.
I don't think the judge really matters. I mean, he matters, of course, but
Right.
Trotter has to say, yes, I'll accept this person's testimony as expert.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he says, the first person that he kind of ruins the testimony for in the first day of him really kind of starting to kind of get his feet under him is the guy who loves to eat grits for breakfast. And he said that, it was only 5 minutes between when he saw the people come in and when he heard the gunshot. And Vinny's whole thing about, does time work differently on your stove? Because
the laws of physics don't work anymore when we enter your kitchen.
Yeah, because like he made grits, and no self-respecting Southerner would make instant grits.
Right.
So, it's like, so it couldn't take 5 minutes because Vinny learned earlier that grits takes 20 minutes.
Yep.
To boil.
No lost time in this
Right.
movie. All the scenes matter.
Did we even bring up the fact that the menu just had 3 options?
Yeah, I made a joke earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When I
Jason
went to
ordered the
lunch, I just
breakfast.
ordered breakfast.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then
The way they do that too is like, I don't know. What are you thinking? Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll probably just have the breakfast.
and then reverse shot, and it's just the 3 options. But that was only a $2 breakfast. That was
I
pretty
know,
breakfast.
and it looked pretty good.
It sure did.
Lie. A little bit of
Lots
butter.
of lard, though.
Yeah, lots of lard.
God,
a little bit.
Are
You
you
guys,
aware
you guys
of
know about the
the
cholesterol
the
epidemic?
country's ongoing epidemic with cholesterol? And the guy just looks back like, huh? So basically she explains that because she looks at the pictures and she realizes that his case now to basically counter the prosecution is incorrect. That there were only 2 cars that would make skid marks that would remain even over a there's like a little island,
Like
a curb,
medium curb, yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
the
when it
car
goes
needs
up,
to have positive traction.
positive traction, which makes both wheels spin, and it cannot be a one even unmovable suspension, because it would make when you go over the curb,
One tire would tilt.
one tire would tilt and would change the skid.
Yes. And she says
somebody
the
tell my
Corvette.
underwear that.
Yeah, she said the Corvette and the '63 Tempest are the only 2 cars that would have it.
And nobody would mistake a Corvette if they saw it.
Yes.
So
But
the 63 Pontiac Tempest, which basically looks just like the Buick Skylark, they're both available in mint green, and they're both convertibles.
Because they're both made by GM.
Yep. And her little celebration of like explain, and she kind of like taps the little railing in front of her is so cute.
Yeah, and leans back.
Yeah.
All the while, Joe Pesci is doing the dance in the courtroom, which again, Liar Liar mimics later. But he has one more. Is it one more?
The look of just sheer satisfaction on his face when she's doing her argument and her logical analysis. It's so good. He's like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's my lady.
Yeah.
And she's cute. And she's cute too.
Yeah, 'cause he
that Joe
recalls
Pesci toothy grin. Love
Yep.
it.
He calls back
The expert
the expert,
to validate.
George Wilbur. Yeah, it's like, is what she says accurate? He's like, I would say it would have to be accurate, basically. And he's like, he was like, so, what do you think of that witness? She's kind of cute too, huh? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, he basically says, yeah, that would be accurate. As he's cross-examining, or as he's cross-examining him, the sheriff comes in. He's like, I got it, basically. And Pesci's feeling it now. Like he smiles and he's like, oh, yeah, we got this. And what did the sheriff bring?
Joe or Vinny had asked him to look and see if anyone stole a 63 Tempest.
Yep.
With mint green. And they found 2 men matching these guys' description in the car. And that's not all. They also had the gun, which matches. Yeah, the 357, which matches the bullet shot into the clerk. To which case the judge is like, hey, he rests his case at that point. And then the judge asks the prosecution, he's like, you know what? Based on this new evidence, we'd like to dismiss all charges. And boom.
Hey, everybody
it's actually
wins.
Really, really well done. Like, my kids were even cheering. Like,
well, and Ralph Macchio is crying.
Yeah,
that's some good acting there.
Yeah, he's good in it. Like, there's no bad performances in this movie. Brindley was getting frustrated the whole movie that there wasn't help. Like, he wouldn't ask Lisa for help at all. She's like, ask her for help. And I found out later that she had seen a TikTok of her describing the car information in the past. So she knew one of the later scenes already.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, part of that I think was maybe even in the trailers or the commercials or something. But
there have been
there's some
courtroom dramas that have glorified the great American legal system. This isn't one of them.
Love it.
This is it's kind of wild to think that 31 years on, there are TikTok accounts that are showing clips of this movie.
That's pretty wild.
It's a well-liked movie. I feel like a very well-liked movie, and anyone who likes Joe Pesci would probably go seek this out, I'm guessing, because
sure.
He's star. He's the star of this film.
I mean, I think it's the most likable role of his career.
Well, yeah, because he's such a little dirtbag in Raging Bull. He's a crazy person in Goodfellas.
And
he's a dirtbag in almost everything.
He's even worse than a crazy person in Casino. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you say most likable role? That's what you said,
most
right?
likable. Yeah, I mean, you can enjoy him in those like villains.
Well, I don't know.
Sure.
No, I was just making sure I understood.
But likable for sure. I mean, he's very. It's not the type of role he's kind of known for. Even in Home Alone, he's the villain. He's jerky, even though that's much more fun role.
Daniel Stern is the more likable one in that movie.
Is he though? He's the one who's turning on all the faucets. I already hated him.
He's kind of goofy though.
Did he use the proper amount of torquage for those faucets?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
I saw this movie in the theater. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I saw this at a double feature drive-in with my buddy and his parents. They took us to the drive-in, and this was the first picture. You know what the second one was? There's a reason we were there. It was Alien 3.
Oh wow! Those came out the same year.
They came out like around the same time. Yeah.
That's kind of surprising to me for some reason.
Yeah,
Alien feels like it came out later.
And I believe they're both 20th Century Fox pictures as well.
Yeah, they are. This came out March 13th, 92. Alien came out like in May, like early May or something like that.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't realize Alien 3 was that old. I guess, yeah.
So yeah, I did not see this until video. Um, but I definitely remember like seeing the trailer a lot. Um, but yeah, no, I definitely had seen it by the time the Oscars came around. Because like, oh yeah, Marissa Tomei. That's the only one of those movies I've seen.
I
Yeah.
probably didn't watch the Oscars in 1993 or 1990. Yeah, 1993 probably not. But one thing I do remember is driving home from the movie. My buddy's mom saying the language in both of those movies was deplorable. And it is a lot of fuck bombs, like fuck bombs, f bombs.
That's the best.
A lot of
That's the
fuck
best.
bees.
Fuck bombs. There are a lot of them in both of those movies. Like Alien 3, for all the f bombs in this movie, Alien 3 probably has 3 times more. And I do remember thinking that when I was watching it, because I was 13, I think, probably just 13. And when you're 13, you hear every f bomb.
I think
I don't hear them anymore.
I think we need to go through the list of terms like F-bomb
Fuck.
that are used to mask the swear word and put the swear word back in.
Yes.
It's a shit word. They use the shit word.
Yeah. God, fuck bomb kills me. I don't know.
Just start saying it from now on.
Me too.
There's a lot of fuck bombs in here. This podcast episode is rated R for fuck bombs.
For fuck bombs.
My God, that's funny for some reason.
Marissa Tomei beat Judy Davis in a Woody Allen movie. Joan Plowright for being an old British lady in some movie. Vanessa Redgrave for being in Howard's End. And Miranda Richardson in a movie that is probably about
What's it called?
Damage. It looks like Infidelity. Anyway, so
Damn.
yeah, so the comedy lady won.
Was there anything else nominated for this or just her?
Just her.
Well deserved. I mean, I don't recall seeing any of the other movies. Maybe Howard's End I saw. Yeah, I mean,
I specifically avoided movies like Howard's End like a fucking plague.
yeah.
Man.
Quit dropping fuck bombs, bro.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, did I see? Well, it's the same year as.
Unforgiven.
Yeah,
a big winner.
yeah. A lot of the movies on the actor side of this are a lot more well remembered than the women's side of this. Huh? That's interesting. Like Lorenzo Zoya, I've seen that. That's a weird movie. All
I think I've seen that as well.
It was Susan Sarandon, but Emma Thompson won for Howard's End. Howard's End, I guess that is still kind of well respected. That's like a Ivory Merchant, right?
Yeah. It's a.
Those were
Put it
winning
on and
awards. Those
Jeff
were
will
winning
take a
awards
nap.
all through the 90s, weren't they?
80s and 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jason, you said Susan was saying that none of this was realistic, but did she like the movie?
Yeah, she did. She enjoyed it. She thought it was funny.
We didn't really talk about it. It's like there's also the time element where it's like Joe Pesci's got to get the fuck out of town quickly.
Yeah, because I mean, we kind of talked about it, but
right, because of Callow. Now he's going to look up. The judge is going to look up Callow. But why was Marissa Tomei on the phone when he needed her to testify? Is because she was calling in a favor through his old mentor pal to
Judge Malloy.
Judge Malloy to send a fax that embellished his career as a lawyer.
Yeah, Fred Gwynn's like, win some, lose some. It's real good. And the town is just so nice. Like when he's leaving, I like that about that. There's no grudges. Nobody's angry. Everybody's, I don't know. It's just nice to see whether there's no, the only two people fighting are them kind of in their flirtatious way.
Let's talk about the $200 real quick.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because the first time he gets put into jail for contempt, Marissa Tomei says, I had to cash in half of the traveler's checks. I didn't really want to do that, but I tried to hustle the $200, but
Stiffed.
I got stiffed. He's like, stiffed? And so then they drive to this pool hall. This is a great scene because he's a little dude compared to the guy that stiffed her.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, so I'm here for the $200. He's like, well, why don't I just kick your ass instead? And he's like, ooh, well, that's an interesting counter offer. I'm a lawyer. It's like he's so proud to say he's a lawyer, but he's like, but I'm going to take the $200 instead. And like everybody, like his pals start laughing, so he's kind of winning them over a little bit. And then he's like, I'll tell you what, here's my counter offer. I'll beat the shit out of you, and then I'll take the $200. And he is like, so let me. He was like, so do you got the money? Let's fight now. Well, you get the money. He's like, I can get it. It's like, oh, you can get it. Huh? Well, when you get it, look me up, and I'll kick the shit out of you. Basically. And so the guy keeps coming back every now. Like they move to another hotel because they're trying again with a place that doesn't have like a crazy morning whistle at 5:30 in the morning to wake everybody up. And the guy's just got like a 20 wrapped around a bunch of ones. He's like, oh yeah, how do I know you didn't just put a 20 over a bunch of one? And the guy puts it in his pocket when he's asked to fan it out.
The way he walks away dejected, like this guy, I don't know who he is, but his perplexed face is phenomenal. Like whenever Pesci's like talking circles around him, he's like, "What? Like he's so perplexed and dejected. It's wonderful."
But then he finally comes back. He finally comes back, and this is when
well, that guy's already always technically in the same place. He's sitting outside the bar.
Well, sure. But this time he comes back, or, the next time we see him is when Pesci's covered in mud. And he doesn't have time for his shit. But he's got the $200 and he's got it fanned out. And he's like, I don't have time for it. He's like, now you're going to kick my ass? Or you're going to kick the shit out of me or whatever? And he just launches himself up to his face, punches him, and they fall, and he falls onto him.
He just body slams him, basically.
Pretty much. And it's so quick and funny and unexpected. Then he gets up and just takes the $200, and that's the end of that plot line. And it's perfect.
Well, they had an agreement.
Yeah, that was the agreement.
The agreement met. And the other guy's like, with the neck brace, is just like, what the fuck?
But the whole launching up and then body slamming him, just hilarious.
That's great.
I think I actually farted when I laughed. I laughed so hard.
That was one of those laugh out loud moments for sure.
Yeah.
Every scene with that guy, I was laughing. Like everyone he was in, basically. I don't know.
Yes. Good movie.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very good stuff. Chuck, you picked out next week also.
I did?
You did.
Oh yeah, we
got Smokey on our tail.
Yeah, we got Smokey and the Bandit. I haven't seen this in a long time. I remember liking it. I know the sequels are kind of woo, but there's something to this film as I remember it. So I'm hoping on a rewatch it holds up to what I think it is in my mind, because it's been a while. And I know, is there some concern over there with either of you two on this film? No,
I want to watch Burt Reynolds be Burt Reynolds.
I'm kind of in this mode right now of these sort of 70s like
exploitation, or
kind of like it. I'm more in that zone of where new Hollywood and exploitation kind of started to merge, and this is right in that kind of wheelhouse. I have not seen this movie since I was a kid. I have no fucking idea really what I'm getting into. So
this is our second Hal Needham movie.
yeah.
And we're gonna be rocking out the Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound and Down.
And we're gonna end up again with Alabama and Georgia and the South, and it's gonna be good stuff. I think it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
This one's gonna make Joe Bob proud.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a movie made on 4.3 million and it made 300 million.
That's insanity.
Jesus, that is
More on that next week.
More on that next week. Probably led to Megaforce. But that, I mean, all roads lead to Megaforce. Anyway. All right. So that's next Wednesday. You can go over to filmseizure.com or wherever you're listening to this. Just listen to this here again. Yeah, do that. Chuck, that was almost more awkward.
It's because you forgot. You didn't have to do it.
Anyway,
it was still shorter.
Yep.
I guess it was. Next Monday on Monster Mondays, all the same places that you catch Film Seizure. It's part 2 of the Doctor Who Cyberman Second Doctor month. And this one is a classic, The Tomb of the Cybermen. That is not my favorite of these, but the one that gets all the accolades. So that is on Monday. This upcoming weekend, there's a couple of things to talk about here. On Friday at bmovieanima.com is the second week of this third Full Moon Fever, and it is Lolita 2000. It's not good. It is the worst of the bunch.
Is that about a robot Lolita?
No.
Oh.
If you want to know more, you can just read about it.
I feel like they missed a real opportunity of naming that movie Lolita 2001, but
well, there's a bunch of different titles for the movie. Anyway, but this Saturday is the 50th episode of B Movie Anima the series and the return of the Ghost of Cameron Mitchell in kind of a conclusion to a little bit of an arc there. Supersonic Man.
Jason's doing the voiceover.
Supersonic Man. That movie is also bad.
Good.
So
Glad to know you're covering a bunch of bad movies.
Yeah, go over to B Movie Anima for all the shit stains of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, the shit word stain of cinema.
Got to get some positraction on that shit.
Yeah, for the skid marks.
Yep.
All right, but anyway, that's what's coming up. We're only 2 episodes away from episode number 250, if you can believe it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, that does it for this week. I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.